from the Signature Bank Studios.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Big week in terms of news about the economy. The jobs number comes out this week for last month. For July. Got second quarter GDP news this week about the Treasury's financing plans. And you got the Fed meeting. Will they, mystics or won't the mystics, cut short-term rates like the president wants? And does it matter? The argument goes that what matters is how markets respond to the Fed's monetary policy. So, for example, if short rates fall but long rates rise in anticipation of higher inflation, then the economic gain Trump expects from cutting rates won't occur. So what should the Fed do or not do? What can we anticipate? For expert insights on these and other matters, Scott the Cow Guy, Scott Shellady, joins us. There it is. Market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1, and host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30 Central Standard Time, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
All right, so what should Jay Powell and the Fed governors do, particularly after that public humiliation he was put through by Trump as they toured the the Fed HQ renovations ongoing?
Well, if Jay Powell wanted to gain some credibility overnight, I think he should show up to his press conference tomorrow wearing that hard hat. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. He just got off the job site. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he would gain instant credibility. A lot of people would love him for that.
Like Dukakis in the tank. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He's not going to cut rates tomorrow. I don't think. I mean, there's a very slight chance he does, but it's an overwhelmingly negative chance. And so here's the deal. What the Fed affects is the Fed funds rate, right? And that's the rate that the banks use to borrow and lend from each other. Banks. That's not what we're concerned with here. Our concern is the 10-year yield.
Right.
And the 10-year yield is what our mortgages are based off of, our credit card debt, our car loans, and those types of things. And the last time the Fed went on a rate-cutting spree was suspiciously close to the election last year. The last 4 months of the year, they cut rates by a full percentage point, one full percent. And he cut them 50 basis points right in front of the election, which is usually considered a no-no. And we saw the 10-year yield actually rally 100 basis points. So it went from 3.7 to 4.7. So it didn't give the consumer any help at all whatsoever. Trump wants rates cut because of the debt and what we're paying on the debt, and that's a great point. But his other point of real estate is not a good point, because if we do see the 10-year yield come lower, and then that means mortgages come lower, you're going to introduce more people into the possibility of more buyers to the market. And if you bring in more buyers, we still have a shortage of homes. Lower rates are only going to make home prices go higher. And you might have a more affordable mortgage, but you have to pay more for the asset price. And the problem is we only talk about interest rates when we talk about real estate. We only talk about supply and demand of houses when we talk about real estate. But those aren't really the problems. Yeah, we should probably have more houses out there. That's great. And yeah, we would like to see interest rates a little bit lower. But the real problem is that when we had free money, the asset spiked in 3 times, it went up 300%. And that's the problem. We're trying to get a 7.5% mortgage. My first mortgage was 7.75%. That seems high today, but it wasn't back then because the asset prices weren't so high. So your mortgage was on a lesser expensive home. Nowadays, you're going to have to be paying 7.75 for something that's 3 times as expensive as it was a while ago, and that's the problem. So we need the asset prices to either stabilize and have things catch up to them, or actually come lower, and maybe a little bit of both. But that's the problem. So I don't think interest rate cuts are going to help the housing market, but it would definitely help with our debt situation and how much money the country has to pay in debt.
Yeah, but with the example you mentioned, I mean, couldn't that happen again here? Which is that long-term rates stay high because you have investors worrying about rising U.S. debt and demanding a higher yield to finance it, even if you cut rates, even if you cut the short-term rate.
Right. And so there's some things you look at that a lot of people don't talk about, but there's something called the money supply. That's M2. It's a measure of the money in the system. And the definition of inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. Well, M2 exploded around 2022, and that's when we had the CPI at 9.1%, the Consumer Price Index. So we had inflation. Well, the CPI, the money supply, the M2 number, is at an all-time record high right now. I mean, arguably, that would be something that Jay Powell could be looking at because he doesn't want to be cutting rates into the fact that we're dumping still tons of cash into the system. Now, we might have more goods for sale, which kind of takes a little bit of that steam off that problem. But you're right. This 10-year yield is still around 4.4% right now, and 4.5%, and it doesn't want to go lower. Now they could cut rates. They could cut the Fed funds rate by 0.25%, which is what they probably will do in September. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see that 10-year yield come off. And again, like I said, last year, and this is where Jay Powell gets in trouble, Dan. If you look at the reasons why he cut rates or when he cut rates last year, stocks at all-time record highs, that's similar right now. We had a 3.3% CPI. We're at 2.7 right now. So we didn't have, inflation was higher, and yet he still decided to cut rates. The problem is you use his metrics today, he would absolutely cut them, but for some reason something's getting in the way, and that might be his own stubbornness because he's getting beaten up by the president. So we shall see. But the biggest reason to cut rates is the interest on our debt. It's not going to help housing, I don't think. And you're right. The long-term rates are going to still worry about inflation because some of these tariffs still need to come through the system. I don't think they're going to be as inflationary as everybody else does. Arguably, you could say that some of them are actually going to be deflationary, but we haven't really taken into consideration the deflationary aspects of artificial intelligence and the rise of what's been happening with technology. That has been a big thing on the other side of the ledger that I think is going to be definitely taking a little bit of that inflation out of the system.
Well, I mean, the whole saga of the Fed and this Fed chairman that will probably play out for another year till the expiration of his term. I mean, can we just can somebody that is in a position of authority with respect to monetary policy, like the Fed chairman, just say, look, I'm not going to try to paper over the fiscal recklessness and fecklessness of the political class. If you have a problem with where things are right now in terms of rates, then talk to the people that you sent to Washington. Talk to the people that you elected, because we're engaging in this folly that we can walk away, and including the Fed's profligacy, that we can walk away from decades, and particularly the last decade, of profligate fiscal and monetary policy without any consequence, just by manipulating the dials on the Fed's machinery a little bit with a little bit more precision. I mean, it's just that the whole thing is a joke. What we need to do, it seems to me, get your response, get somebody in there who said, look, my job is price stability, to maintain the value of the dollar and the purchasing power of the American family. And if those guys want to spend beyond our collective means, then take it up with those guys on Capitol Hill.
You're exactly right. But there have been, the problem is that Powell has lost a lot of credibility. I mean, transitory when he talked about inflation.
Yeah, I understand. I understand Powell's. I understand Powell's past posts, but I'm just saying, the profile of a Fed chairman that Trump should be looking at if he doesn't go the Rand Paul way and choose an empty chair.
Right. Well, there have been. What I'm trying to say is there have been Federal Reserve chairmen that have gone to Congress and said, "What are you doing?
Yeah, this
is like taking blood out of your right arm and putting it in your left arm. Everything I'm doing, you're canceling out." That's happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, people that have have a strong backbone have said to Congress, stop it. So, I mean, it could possibly be, but he's not the right person to do that now.
Right. Where's like Paul Volcker when you need him?
Yes.
Well, he's passed away. That's where he is.
All 6'7" of them. Yeah, all 6'7" of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so So, talk to us about tariffs and the EU trade deal. Is this the biggest deal ever, as was suggested by Trump over the weekend?
Well, I mean, if you consider the amount of goods that go back and forth, it's big that way, and the money is big. I mean, $750 billion over 3 years for our net gas, $600 billion in whatever they want to do. I mean, that's over $1 trillion. So, I mean, there are things you could say if you're trying to advertise a lot of success that it is a really big deal. But all it really does is give some clarity to the rest of the market about where we're going to land as far as tariffs go. And it looks as though that number is going to be around 15%, and 15% is something that the stock market can handle, because you're going to see a lot of folks along the way take a little bit of that pain themselves. So we're not going to see on tariff items a 15% hike. You might see a couple of bucks on a $50 item, but it's not going to be anywhere near what the market was worried about on Liberation Day back in April or April 8th when the stock market was on its knees. So, what the problem is that I think, and this is probably, I know for sure it's the first time ever that we've seen the retail trader, mom and pop, they're the ones that bought the market from April 8th going forward. The professional traders, the smart money on Wall Street, they voted with their politics, and apparently they're all liberals because they're the ones that were doing all the selling, and they haven't really got back in the market. So all these trade deals that are coming through, we're probably going to get a rate cut in September. We've seen the big, beautiful bill get through, whether you like it or not. There's still some things in there that are stimulative. It's probably not a good idea to be really short this market. We probably will get a little bit of a pullback because we've come so far so fast. But between now and the end of the year, we're going to be higher.
Mm. And the one thing I just wanted to address, too, because, I mean, Trump's trade deals, he did not sort of rewrite the laws of economics. I mean, the idea, like it just shows you that tariffs don't matter, and tariffs don't result in inflation, and tariffs don't increase prices to the consumer. Well, that's not true. It's just that what he was proposing and where he actually landed, as I think we actually both said at the time, is the net is he because of the leverage that the United States has, everybody wants access to our market, which he understands, rightly so. Maybe the net will hopefully be with our major trading partners. It is a little bit freer, in terms of trade barriers. And ultimately is a net benefit to the United States on the margins, but that's sort of where we're tracking. It's not this paradigm shift with respect to trade or the laws of economics that underlie it.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, if Besson's correct, I don't think he's lying. Actually, I think he's probably the best thing we've got going for us, to be honest. He thinks we'll have around $300 billion in the coffers at the end of the year from tariffs, and that will most likely grow. But if you add that to the $200 billion that DOGE has found, I mean, there's $500 billion that we didn't have before, and so there are positives. And maybe on the margins, it's not quite fair. It's probably a little bit better than that. But no, I mean, we cut a deal with the UK. We were in net, we already had a decent deal with them. We just kind of redid it and made it look good.
Yeah.
And I get how there's a little bit of skepticism there, but I also don't think it's fair that we can't sell cars into Japan and they can sell anything they want here either. So there definitely need to be some things done. He's doing that. Is he selling more of the sizzle than the steak? Yes. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for example, some of the big ticket items with respect to the EU that are problematic are not addressed, or at least they haven't been addressed yet. They weren't addressed in any meaningful way over the weekend. For example, the digital taxes and
right.
the EU's regulation right. of U.S. tech firms. I mean, as well as ag, and not just in terms of access to markets, but sort of phony GMO regulations the EU has, and so on and so forth. Like that, those sorts of things
exactly.
that were discussed, but they were left out.
And you could probably say that with a lot of the other deals too. There hasn't been an overabundance of details.
And just because I know you were and have been I don't know if it's fair to call you a crypto skeptic, but you're not somebody who has been long on crypto. And I just wonder with the machinery of government turning in the direction of crypto, including at David Sachs's direction per Trump, where are you now with cryptocurrency? What do you think the near-term future holds for crypto?
It's tough because I'm still not a believer. I understand it, and the longer it takes for us to really, adopt and engage it, I think things like Venmo and the likes catch up and do a lot of the things that people really want crypto to do. They sold it to me as something that was outside of the government purview. Well, that's no longer the case, and I think that most of the people that are investing in it don't know what it is. I think that's very dangerous. I think the strategy of buying crypto today is that you only think it's the person behind you in line to buy is going to pay more than you. That's not a strategy to buy something. Mm-hmm. You need to know what it actually does for you. And I know everybody's getting on board, and you mentioned even the U.S. government's trying to get. But it still sounds to me like everybody else is doing it, so I have to do it kind of a reason. Just because everybody else is doing it and it's now being adopted by some of the big banks, and it's still no one's come to me and said, this is going to make your life better. This is going to change the way you interact with things. I know what it does for the banking system. I get it, but I've resigned myself to let other people make money in it. I'm going to make money over here. Because it just feels like to me, with all the reasons that people get involved. Look, ask 10 people on the street in Chicago, have you heard of Bitcoin? They'll all say yes. How many of them actually are invested? Probably 2. Of those 2, do you know what it really is? No. I mean, that is what we're building. And so then I have some of the smartest guys on my show here in Nashville on Wall Street, and some of the biggest banks. And when I asked them about crypto, they politely declined, saying that their bank does not let them talk about it because it's still not, to them, a safe asset class.
Scott, go ahead.
It's got a ways to go.
Scott the Cow Guy.
Got a ways to go.
Got a ways to go. Okay. Scott the Cow Guy. Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. Also the host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both shows at RFD-TV out of Nashville, as you just heard him say. Scott the Cow Guy, thank you as always.
All righty. See ya. Have a good day.
You too. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving My